Presidents who survived assassinations. Throughout history, several US presidents have narrowly escaped assassination attempts that could have changed the course of history forever. Here are some of the most shocking stories of survival. 1. Andrew Jackson. Our first story takes us back to January 30th, 1835, when President Andrew Jackson faced an assassination attempt in one of the most unlikely ways. Richard Lawrence, an unemployed house painter, believed he was the reincarnation of a 15th century English king. Driven by this delusion, Lawrence confronted Jackson as he was leaving a funeral at the US Capitol. Armed with 2 pistols, Lawrence took his shot at the president, but both guns miraculously misfired. Jackson, furious, charged at the would-be assassin with his cane and subdued him. While some say this tale is exaggerated, what's not debatable is that Lawrence was found not guilty by reason of insanity. Jackson's life was spared, possibly due to the damp weather, which may have affected the guns. The odds of both pistols misfiring were said to be about 1 in 125,000. 2. Theodore Roosevelt, known for his rugged personality, survived an assassination attempt in 1912 while campaigning for his 3rd term as president on the Bull Moose ticket. John Schrank, a saloon owner who had bizarre dreams involving the late President McKinley, shot Roosevelt in the chest with a .38 caliber revolver in Milwaukee. Remarkably, a thick speech folded in his breast pocket and a metal glasses case slowed the bullet, preventing fatal injury. Despite having a bullet lodged in his ribs, Roosevelt continued to deliver his 90-minute speech, famously stating, "It takes more than that to kill a bull moose." The bullet remained in his body for the rest of his life. 3. Herbert Hoover. While less dramatic than some of the other assassination attempts, Herbert Hoover narrowly escaped death in 1928 during a visit to the Andes. Argentine anarchists plotted to blow up the train Hoover was traveling on, but the plan was thwarted when one of the conspirators was caught before planting the bombs. Hoover later downplayed the event, even tearing the newspaper article off the front page to prevent his wife from worrying. In typical Hoover fashion, he quipped, "It's just as well that Lou shouldn't see it." 4. Franklin D. Roosevelt. In 1933, just days before his first inauguration, President-elect Franklin D. Roosevelt was the target of an assassination attempt in Miami, Florida. An anarchist named Giuseppe Zangara opened fire as Roosevelt gave a speech. Although Roosevelt was unharmed, Chicago Mayor Anton Cermak was mortally wounded. Zangara's true target remains unclear, but he was swiftly apprehended and sentenced to death. FDR's survival allowed him to lead the nation through the Great Depression and World War II. 5. Harry S. Truman faced 2 separate assassination attempts during his presidency. In 1947, a Zionist group allegedly sent mail bombs to Truman and other officials, though this incident was never widely publicized. The second, more famous attempt occurred in 1950 when Puerto Rican nationalists Oscar Collazo and Griselio Torrezola attempted to storm Blair House, where Truman was staying while the White House was under renovation. While Torrezola killed a White House police officer, he was shot dead in the exchange, and Collazo was captured. Truman survived unharmed and later commuted Collazo's death sentence. 6. Richard Nixon. One of the most elaborate assassination plots involved President Richard Nixon in 1974. Samuel Bick, a man deeply disillusioned with the government, planned to hijack a commercial airliner and crash it into the White House to kill Nixon. Bick killed a police officer and stormed the cockpit, but when the pilots informed him the plane couldn't take off, he shot them, killing one. Police shot Bick through the plane window, and he took his own life before being captured. 7. Gerald Ford survived not 1 but 2 assassination attempts within a month in 1975, both in California. The first was carried out by Lynette Squeaky Fromm, a member of the infamous Manson family. Armed with a gun, Frommie attempted to shoot Ford, but the weapon misfired. Just 17 days later, Sarah Jane Moore fired a shot at Ford in San Francisco, but an ex-Marine named Oliver Sipple deflected her arm, causing the bullet to miss. Both women were sentenced to prison, and Ford went on to serve the remainder of his presidency unscathed. 8. Jimmy Carter. In 1979, Jimmy Carter narrowly escaped an assassination plot just before giving a speech in Los Angeles. A drifter named Raymond Lee Harvey was arrested with a starter pistol and claimed he was part of a larger conspiracy to kill the president. Due to Harvey's mental illness, the plot was largely dismissed, though it demonstrated the potential dangers presidents face, even from seemingly disorganized attackers. 9. Ronald Reagan. Perhaps one of the most famous presidential assassination attempts in recent history was that of Ronald Reagan in 1981. John Hinckley Jr. opened fire on Reagan outside the Washington Hilton Hotel, wounding the president, his press secretary James Brady, a police officer, and a Secret Service agent. Reagan was shot in the chest and suffered significant internal injuries, but he managed to joke with doctors and nurses saying, "I hope you're all Republicans." Hinckley's motive was his obsession with actress Jodie Foster. Reagan recovered and served 2 terms as president. 10. Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton faced multiple assassination attempts during his presidency, with 3 alone occurring in 1994. Ronald Gene Barber sought to kill Clinton during his daily jog through the National Mall. Later that year, Frank Eugene Corder rammed a small airplane onto the White House lawn in an attempt to kill Clinton, though Corder died in the crash and the Clintons were unharmed. In October, Francisco Martin Duran fired numerous shots at the White House, but tourists tackled him before he could do any harm. In 1996, during a visit to Manila, a bomb plot orchestrated by Al-Qaeda was uncovered, preventing what could have been a devastating attack on Clinton's motorcade. 11. George W. Bush. In February 2001, Robert Pickett, a former IRS employee with a history of mental illness, fired several shots at the White House. President George W. Bush was exercising in the residential area at the time and was unharmed. Pickett was shot by a Secret Service agent and later treated in a psychological institution. A more serious attempt occurred in 2005 during a rally in Tbilisi, Georgia, when a live grenade was thrown at Bush and Georgian President Mikhail Saakashvili. Fortunately, the grenade didn't detonate due to a handkerchief blocking the safety lever, averting a potential disaster. 12. Barack Obama. The nation's first black president was the target of numerous assassination plots. Before he even took office in 2008, 2 white supremacists were arrested for conspiring to kill him. Later, in 2011, a man fired multiple shots at the White House, claiming Obama was the Antichrist. Though Obama and his family were not home, the shooter was apprehended. A few years later, in 2013, a letter addressed to Obama tested positive for the deadly poison ricin, but it was intercepted before reaching him. Obama's presidency saw multiple threats. 13. Donald Trump. Former President Donald Trump was wounded in an assassination attempt during a campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania on July 13, 2024. A shooter opened fire, striking Trump with a bullet that pierced the upper part of his right ear. Despite being wounded, Trump raised his fist to the crowd. Blood smeared on his face. 1 bystander died, and 2 others were critically injured in the attack. Trump later posted on Truth Social, confirming the attack and thanking supporters for their prayers. Another attempt followed just 2 months later in Florida when a rifle-wielding suspect was found near Trump's golf course. The Secret Service acted swiftly, and Trump was evacuated unharmed. This wasn't the first time Trump faced danger. In 2016, Michael Steven Sanford attempted to grab a police officer's gun at a rally in Las Vegas, hoping to assassinate Trump. Sanford, later found to have a history of mental illness, was apprehended before he could carry out the plot. Which assassination attempt surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more fascinating history.